So you might have to say Julie. Okay, so the elections, introductions. Thank you, Dr. Schibel. This is the third time and this is the second time I've got it. So I am Julie Davis. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations for the district. We have our interim superintendent with us, Dr. Sarah Schibel, this evening, and a couple of our individuals who are part of our bond construction team. That reminder. So our election is November 7th. Again, we have two proposals on that. We have a bond proposal as well as an operating millage. So we're going to be going through both of those this evening. And it's also important to know that the ballot language is really prescribed by law. So when you see that language in the ballot, we really don't have any control over phrases or anything like that. It's really all prescribed by law. So we're first going to talk about the operating millage a little bit. Let's go down to the best one. Okay, I'll take my time on this slide. So the operating millage is levied on what's called non-homestead property. So just like it says up on the screen, it's industrial, commercial, some agricultural, and second homes if you own a second home. It doesn't include a family's primary residence. And it's a component of our foundation allowance. And the foundation allowance supports our day-to-day operations, and it really is our largest source of revenue for the district. So with the foundation allowance, the state of Michigan assumes that all school districts are levying 18 mills, and a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar. So the foundation allowance is assuming we're levying that. However, there's another law that's in place, and it's called the Headley Amendment, and that requires districts to roll back the number of mills they're levying when property taxes are growing faster than the rate of inflation. So Forest Hills has been in that situation for several years now, where we have not been able to levy the full 18 mills to get our full foundation allowance per pupil amount. So our current levy rate is 17.6614. So the state is assuming that we are levying 18 mills on the non-homestead properties, but we're only levying 17.6614. So that means we're really losing revenue every year. Our current authorization is in place through 2025. And so what we are requesting in November is an increase, a $0.5 mil increase for both 2024 and 2025. And if approved, it would be expected to generate about $395,000 to support our day-to-day operations. Now, if you do the math, you do 0.5 plus the 17.6614, you'll notice that that goes over the 18. We can't levy more than 18 mills. We're statutorily capped at that 18 mills. So what this is doing is it's requesting a little bit more so that if there's a rollback in either of those years, we're able to still fully levy the 18 mills. All right, so let's talk about the bond. So we're requesting $340 million. If approved, it would be issued in multiple series. We wouldn't issue that all at once. We don't have the capacity from a human capital side to do all those projects at once. And financially, that would spike the tax rate if we levy full bonds for the 340 mills. So it would be issued in multiple series. The projects would be scheduled through the year 2031. And we don't expect any tax rate over, an increase over the current tax rate. So what can bond funds be used for? Purchase of real estate so that you can build buildings, construction or additions to buildings, renovations, upgrading athletic facilities, technology equipment, school buses, playground equipment, and some energy conservation improvements. But bond funds can't be paid for those day-to-day things. So think classroom teachers, classroom supplies, utilities, staff training, upgrades to operating systems and software, non-school bus vehicles. Those things can't be funded with the bond. On this slide, we're just showing our debt tax rate over the history since since 2013. So back in 2013, we were levying 7.9 mills, and in 2023, we're at 6.05 mills. So we've been able to reduce the number of mills we're levying for our debt history. And part of that is because we've been retiring some of our older debt that we've had on the books for a number of years. All right, so how did we get here? How did we decide on the projects that we're proposing in this bond? And we're gonna go over those in just a minute here. First, we started with some stakeholder input. So we met with smaller groups. We talked to our parent advisory committee. We had conversations with our athletic boosters. We've had individual conversations with community members. We performed walkthroughs of all of our facilities with our principals, our athletic directors, some other staff, as well as you could see the architects and construction managers. And when we did those facility walkthroughs, we really talked about what's working in your building and what are those pain points, what's making it challenging, either from an athletic side or from an instructional side. Teaching and learning has changed over the years, and so we wanted to hear from our principals, what are some of those pain points, how can we maybe address those with renovations to the building. And then we also had assessments performed for mechanical systems and our roofing and paving. So we gathered all of that information and put that together, and then we developed broad specifications. And what I mean by that is if you think of a floor plan for a building, based on what we heard from those walkthroughs or those conversations with the stakeholders, our architects took those floor plans or those blueprints and said, okay, this might be a heavy construction area based on what we heard. And this area might be a light construction area. And so with that information provided to our construction managers, they then developed budget estimates. So how much would it cost to, for example, renovate the rest of Northern High, like we renovated this portion of the building? What's important to know is we haven't done that detailed design work, so we couldn't tell you, here's exactly what will happen at Northern High right now. We just know that we wanted to touch this area. It would probably be a lot of heavy construction, so it's gonna cost a little bit more. This area is a little bit lighter, so it may be more of just fixtures and flooring and lighting. So that detailed design work really happens after we have approval from our community with the bond. It costs money to do that detailed design work, right? And so the bond helps pay for that design work. All right, so our bond proposal is really focusing on three main areas: modernize our learning spaces, updating our infrastructure. You guys are probably really familiar with that. That talks about aging systems, so the mechanical, roofing and paving, buses, technology, those types of things. And we're also looking at improving our athletics, our fine arts, and our community facilities.
What do these figures represent?
I'm sorry?
What do these figures represent?
Yep, and that was my next thing I was gonna say, so thank you. So the graph on the right shows the ages of our buildings from the original construction. So of course, we have done some work to these facilities over the years, but this just shows the age by each building. All right, so let's get into the proposed projects. And we're just gonna go school by school or facility by facility, all right? So over at Ada Elementary, we're looking at about $11.5 million. We would update the learning environments, the instructional spaces. There's another way to think of the learning environments. Do some mechanical and paving work. And then you see playground. We have playground on all of the elementary. There's a desire to put in a piece of playground equipment or two to make those spaces a little bit more accessible. So students who may be in a wheelchair or something like that can have quality time with their peers and be engaged in activities out on the playground. Over at Ada Vista, we have about $4 million planned. We are currently in construction over at Ada Vista, so we're renovating their learning environments right now. So at that space with this bond, we would need to do just roofing, mechanical, paving, and again, the playground. Collins Elementary, we renovated their learning spaces, and that was complete out of the 2018 bond, and so we would just have a little bit of work to do over there for paving and playground for about $1 million. And then over at Nat Forest, we have about 8.3 million slated, to do a little bit of learning environment work there, mechanical and playground. All right, continuing with our elementaries at Meadowbrook, we have 13.1 million proposed. More learning environment work there, mechanical paving and playground. And then over at Orchard View, $1.9 million. They have been completely renovated on the learning environment space, and that building looks phenomenal. So we would only need to do mechanical paving and playground over there. Pine Ridge, we have about $4.8 million. That is currently construction in progress over there for their learning environment, so we're pretty excited about what's going on over there as well. So that $4.8 million will cover mechanical paving and playground at Pine Ridge. And then at Thornapple, they're also complete with their learning environment updates, so we would just need about $1.2